And updates from India and the world of business and sports, and some interesting stories that are making headlines. We'll be looking at updates on the vaccine trials in Midday Prime today. Let's begin with the big news at this hour. Recovery rate from COVID rises to 74.3% in the country. More than 62,200 patients recover in the last 24 hours. More than 2.28 crore cases of corona in the world. The death toll worldwide at 7,97,000. Union Health Minister Dr. Harsh Vardhan expects the corona vaccine to be introduced in the first quarter of 2021. The other two vaccines being manufactured in India will also start production within a month. Vaccines likely to be rolled out in the first quarter of next year. The flood situation in Bihar is still grim. More than 81 lakh people of 16 districts are affected by the floods. Heavy rains in many parts of Madhya Pradesh, waterlogging also in many cities including Bhopal, and heavy rains are likely in Madhya Pradesh to continue. Fire at a power plant in Nagarkurnool, district of Telangana. Eyewitnesses say that there were blasts. Efforts continue to evacuate 9 trapped employees. State Energy Minister Jagdishwar Reddy reaches the spot and takes stock of the situation. Joe Biden accepts the Democratic nomination for U.S. presidential elections. Biden lays out a vision for post-Trump America and blames the U.S. President Donald Trump for spreading the coronavirus. In response to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's letter, cricketer Suresh Raina's emotional response says nothing can be better than when the Prime Minister of the country gives you encouragement. And the Indian team suffers a major setback before preparations for the Tokyo Olympics. The Hockey India's high-performance director, David John, has resigned from his post. So let's begin with the big story at this hour. Let's get you up to date on the COVID-19 from across the country. The figures, the recovery rate has crossed 74%. The case fatality rate is at 1.89%. Over 21 lakh people have recovered from the virus in our country. 62,282 recoveries were recorded yesterday, taking the cumulative total to 21,58,946. And with this, the recovery rate currently stands at 74.3%. India's three-pronged strategy, that's testing, tracing and treating, is proving to be a success. One tangible outcome of this strategy is that the fatality rate has dropped to 1.89%, with 54,849 deaths recorded so far. With over 9 lakh tests being conducted each day, the number of active COVID-19 cases in India stands at 6,92,028, which is 23.82% of the total cases reported so far. Further, according to the Indian Council of Medical Research, the total number of samples tested up to the 20th of August is 334,67,237, which include 8,05,985 samples which were tested yesterday. So the aggressive testing has led to early identification and isolation of COVID-19 positive cases. In a tweet, the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare has said that aggressive testing coupled with efficient clinical treatment keeps the fatality rate down. It added that testing in India has steeply increased to more than 8 lakh tests per day. This has been bolstered with the states and union territories testing more than 140 tests per day per million population, as advised by the WHO. Well, as India fights COVID-19, Dr. Harsh Vardhan, the Union Health and Family Welfare Minister, told an English daily that if the vaccine trial results are good, we could be ready to use the vaccine by the first quarter of 2021. At present, vaccine trials against COVID-19 are being fast-tracked globally. Apart from Covaxin, which is jointly developed by Bharat Biotech and ICMR, the Zydus Cadila Zy-COVID-D vaccine and Oxford's AstraZeneca's candidate Covishield, which is being produced by Serum Institute of India, are being tested across the country. And according to a report, the government is considering an initial order of about 50 lakh doses of coronavirus vaccine for certain groups of people, such as frontline workers and army personnel. Human trials of Covaxin, which has been developed and manufactured by a Hyderabad-based company, Bharat Biotech, started about 2 weeks ago, and it may be available by the end of the year. Human trials of Covaxin, which has been developed and manufactured, as we said, by Bharat Biotech, the Hyderabad-based company, started about 2 weeks back, and we said it may be available by the end of the year. Zy-COVID-D, which is Zydus Cadila's candidate, has started clinical trials with the first human dosage, and also that is also likely to complete its clinical trial stage in a few months' time. Meanwhile, mass testing of Russia's first potential COVID-19 vaccine, Sputnik 5, is set to start next week, and it may involve about 40,000 people at more than 45 medical centers around Russia and will be overseen by a foreign research body when it starts next week. The data is being provided to the WHO, and several countries that are considering participating in the late-stage trial, including the United Arab Emirates, India, Brazil, Saudi Arabia and the Philippines. Sputnik 5 has already received approval from domestic regulators to name Russia the first country to license a COVID-19 vaccine. According to WHO records, at least 4 other potential COVID-19 vaccines are currently in phase 3 trials globally. So let's give you an update then on the COVID vaccine candidates, an update so far. Let's look at the situation in Russia, which is Russia is looking now for partnership with India for the Sputnik 5 vaccine. And this is what Kirill Dmitriev, who's the CEO of the Russian Direct Investment Fund, has said. Sputnik 5 is developed by Gemelli Research Institute and the Russia Development Investment Fund. And Sputnik 5, in fact, is not tested in phase 3 or larger clinical trials as yet. The Russian President Vladimir Putin had given emergency approval for this vaccine, and he had said that the vaccine works quite effectively and it forms a stable immunity. So that's the situation with regard to Russia. We know that the Russian president has given approval. He said that the vaccine is quite effective and that it forms a stable immunity. Let's see what the situation is in India. So we know that the Serum Institute is in phase 2 and phase 3 of trials. This is for Covishield, which is the Oxford vaccine that it will be producing in India. And about 1,600 people aged between 18 years across 17 selected sites are undergoing these tests. Apart from this, Bharat Biotech's Covaxin, which is jointly developed by ICMR, and Zydus Cadila's Zy-COVID-D. These are both in phase 1 and phase 2 trials in our country. Let's look at the situation in the US. Johnson & Johnson plans to test about 60,000 people in phase 3, and it would be the biggest human trial for a potential COVID vaccine. Meanwhile, Moderna and Pfizer, they plan to enroll about 30,000 volunteers for their phase 3 trials. Now, Pfizer Biotech, it's a combination of two companies. Their COVID vaccine, 19 vaccine, is on track for October approvals, according to the company. They are currently analyzing data from their phase 1 trials, which took place in the United States and Germany. So what does the WHO, the World Health Organization, say about all this? They are talking about allocating COVID-19 vaccines in 2 phases. One is the proportional distribution to all countries to reduce overall risk. And then they say that population's threat and vulnerability should be the basis to decide who should get the vaccine first. But the larger debate is, what does the vaccine do? It provides herd immunity. And are we actually receiving herd immunity already? We know that clinical investigators are saying that there is no evidence of a relapse in recovered patients. So people who have recovered, there are very few people who actually got the virus again. So that means even from the beginning, which the virus has been around for about 8 months now, so people have had that immunity for at least 8 months. However, some differ, saying that conclusive information is still unavailable. Antibodies are expected to stay for at least 6 to 8 months. So if you get the virus, you basically are safe for about 6 to 8 months. Now, what's happened in Delhi is that 29.1% of the prevalence of the virus in the second sero survey in Delhi, which means that about 70% of the population is still unaffected by the virus and are potential threats. I mean, they can get the virus. Mumbai, in fact, in their sero survey, which happened at the end of last month, showed that nearly 40% of Mumbai has, been open, has faced the virus. And Pune's showed a much higher seroprevalence survey of 50%, but their sample size was only 1,664. So that is the situation with regard to herd immunity. And if you get over 50% of the people, who are basically have got the immunity to the virus for a short period of time, that would imply that you have herd immunity. We're joined by Nitendra, who is joining us with more inputs on this. Nitendra, so what can we say now? I mean, what can we say? Are we going to have the vaccine by the end of this year?
निश्चित तौर पे मार्क पूरे देश के लोगों की निगाह है कि वैक्सीन कब आएगा, और पहली बार केंद्रीय स्वास्थ्य मंत्री ने ये कहा है कि इस साल के अंत तक वैक्सीन बनकर तैयार हो जाएगा, और उसकी जो सेफ्टी और जो तमाम प्रोटोकॉल होते हैं, अगर वो सब कुछ ठीक ठाक रहा तो फरवरी 2021 में नेक्स्ट ईयर फरवरी मार्च तक पब्लिक के लिए, आम पब्लिक के लिए ये वैक्सीन अवेलेबल हो जाएगा। तो एक बड़ी खबर है, स्वास्थ्य मंत्री के हवाले से आ रहा है। तो निश्चित तौर पे जो देश के लोगों को इंतजार था वैक्सीन को लेकर के, अब 2 से 3 महीने के वक्त और रह गया है। तो उसमें तमाम जो क्लिनिकल ट्रायल चल रहे हैं, फेज 2, फेज 3, जो 3 बड़ी कंपनियां हैं देश की, जो 2 देसी कंपनी है जो आईसीएमआर के साथ मिलकर के फेज 2 और फेज 3 ट्रायल में काम कर रही है। और इसके अलावा जो ऑक्सफोर्ड का वैक्सीन है, जिसे सीरम इंस्टीट्यूट के साथ करार है ऑक्सफोर्ड का, और वो भारत में इस हफ्ते से शुरू हो गया है, फेज 2 और फेज 3 ट्रायल। और ये 17 ऐसे साइट हैं देश के, वहां पर ये फेज 2 और फेज 3 सीरम का जो वैक्सीन है उसका ट्रायल शुरू हो गया है। और खासतौर पर बड़े पैमाने पर महाराष्ट्र में, पुणे में और अहमदाबाद में ये ट्रायल शुरू हो गया है। और इसकी जो सेफ्टी पॉइंट पे नजर रखा जा रहा है, और सब कुछ ठीक ठाक रहा तो निश्चित तौर पे इस साल के अंतर वैक्सीन तैयार हो जाएगा। तो सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट बात यह है मार्क की, जो पैरेलल जो सीरम कंपनी है वैक्सीन बना भी रही है, प्रोडक्शन भी कर रही है, कि अगर सब कुछ सिक्योरिटी फीचर अच्छा रहा, वैज्ञानिक पहलुओं पे सब कुछ ठीक रहा, तो वैक्सीन के प्रोडक्शन में कोई डिले ना हो और जल्द से जल्द लोगों को उपलब्ध हो। इसके अलावा जो 2 देसी जो इंडिजिनस हमारी कंपनी है, उनका भी नेक्स्ट मंथ से प्रोडक्शन शुरू हो जाएगा, और ये पैरेलल दोनों काम चलता रहेगा। एक तरफ ट्रायल भी चलता रहेगा और दूसरा प्रोडक्शन भी शुरू हो जाएगा, जिसके वजह से अगर सब कुछ ठीक रहा तो जल्द से जल्द जो है देश के बाकी हिस्सों में बिल्कुल कोल्ड चेन की मेंटेन करते हुए उनका सप्लाई हो सके। एक और बड़ी खबर यह है मार्क की, जो एक्सपर्ट कमेटी है वैक्सीन को लेकर के, उन्होंने भी ये आइडेंटिफाई कर लिया कि सबसे पहले ये वैक्सीन किसको लगेगा। सबसे पहले उनको लगेगा जो फ्रंटलाइन वर्कर हैं, हेल्थ केयर वर्कर हैं। इसके अलावा जो 65 साल से उम्र के अधिक लोग हैं, उनको वैक्सीन ये पहले दी जाएगी। इसके अलावा जो क्रोनिक डिजीज से जो जिनको है, चाहे वो डायबिटिक हो, कैंसर हो या बाकी दूसरी जो इस तरह की बीमारियां हैं, वो जो हाई रिस्क ग्रुप है, उनको सबसे पहले ये वैक्सीन दिया जाएगा।
Yes, Nitendra, but can you give us an update about what's happening with the phase 1 and phase 2 trials of the 2 Indian vaccines as well? Because they have started their trials. What has the response been? People would be interested to know, are they giving a good immune response?
बिल्कुल, जो पहला जो जायडस कैडिला हो या फिर भारत बायोटेक का जो 14 जो भारत के इंस्टीट्यूट है, मेडिकल कॉलेज हैं, जिसमें एम्स दिल्ली भी शामिल है, वहां पर इनका ट्रायल चल रहा है। और फेज 1 ट्रायल सफल रहा है, और अब फेज 2 ट्रायल शुरू हो गया है, और उसमें जो इम्यूनिटी जो एंटीबॉडी बन रहा है, उसको भी लेकर के अच्छे रिजल्ट आ रहे हैं। सेफ्टी को लेकर के अभी तक ऐसी कोई शिकायत नहीं देखी गई है, और फेज 2 ट्रायल में दोनों ही कंपनियां प्रवेश कर गई हैं। तो अच्छी बात है अगर भारत के लिहाज से देखा जाए, और जो अपनी देश की कंपनी है जो आईसीएमआर के साथ मिलकर के बना रही है, तो उनके अच्छे नतीजे अब तक आए हुए हैं।
Right, Nitendra has been telling us, for the viewers' sake, Nitendra, stay with me, I'm just translating what you're saying, that basically the companies are also ramping up production of the vaccines, and so that there's no backlog later on when the vaccines get their approval. So that is happening simultaneously. He also has said that the phase 1 and phase 2 trials that are going on for the Indian vaccines have been successful so far. But tell us, what and you also did mention that there is a roadmap mentioned as to how the vaccine, who will get the vaccine first, will be frontline workers, and after that, people who have comorbidities will be given the vaccine next, and so that is the process that has been worked out. But Nitendra, let's try and understand that the Russian vaccine has already got approval, but they are into phase 3 trials, and they're looking, for countries in which they can, get their phase 3 trials done, and therefore get a quicker approval. What is the situation? I know that India is in discussions with the Russian government as far as this vaccine is concerned.
देखिए, भारत का अप्रोच ये रहा है कि दुनिया में जहां भी वैक्सीन बन रहा है, तो जो एक्सपर्ट कमेटी है वैक्सीन पे, वो उनकी निगाहें हैं, और वो इस बात को लेकर देख रहे हैं कि कैसे कैसे दुनिया के बाकी हिस्सों में फेज 2 फेज 3 ट्रायल के दौरान जो वैक्सीन आगे बढ़ रहा है, और कौन सा देश वैक्सीन सबसे पहले बना लिया है, और उनकी जो सेफ्टी, सिक्योरिटी और जो इफिकेसी है, उसको लेकर के एक्सपर्ट कमेटी की नजर है उस पर, चाहे वो रूस की बात हो या बाकी दूसरे देशों में जो वैक्सीन डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है। इसके अलावा भारत ये भी सुनिश्चित करना चाहेगा कि उनके जो अपने देश में जो लोग हैं उनके ऊपर भी ट्रायल हो, ताकि देखा जाए कि भारत के लोगों में कितना एंटीबॉडी बन रहा है और उसकी सिक्योरिटी को लेकर के, कितना सेफ्टी को लेकर के जो कंसर्न है उसको देखा जाएगा। ये तमाम जो तरह पे बातचीत हो रही है, चाहे दुनिया के किसी भी हिस्से में वैक्सीन डेवलपमेंट हो रहा है, और रूस के लेकर के भी यही बात है, एक्सपर्ट कमेटी की नजर है, और जैसे जैसे आगे सिचुएशन बढ़ता जाएगा वैसे वैसे जो कमेटी है इस पे डिसीजन लेगी, जिसमें इस कमेटी में विदेश सचिव भी है, केंद्रीय स्वास्थ्य सचिव है, और डॉक्टर वी.के. पॉल जो नीति आयोग के मेंबर हैं, वो उनके अंदर में है, एम्स के डायरेक्टर इसमें शामिल है, आईसीएमआर के डीजी इसमें शामिल है, तो इनकी नजर बिल्कुल बनी हुई है रूस के वैक्सीन पे भी, और आगे क्या कुछ रोड मैप बनता है इस वैक्सीन को लेकर के, कितना इसकी भारत के अंदर इसके सफलता क्या रहेगा और कैसे इसको लाया जाएगा, इसको लेकर के भी बातचीत हो रही है। तो अभी एक शुरुआती दौर में एक्सपर्ट कमेटी के बातचीत में ये सारे तमाम मुद्दे उठाए गए।
And we are privileged to have with us also Dr. Raman Gangakedkar, who's the Dr. C.G. Pandit, National Chair at ICMR, joining us with further analysis on this. Dr. Gangakedkar, so everyone is very keen and looking forward to the vaccine. So the situation that we are looking forward to is, are we looking at the year end? Are we looking back from, let's say, December, or are we looking early next year for the vaccine?
And by perhaps first quarter, you would have sufficient results available. So there is one thing which we have to realize: for any phase 3 trial, you require close to about 6 months time to establish the efficacy as well as the short-term toxicity as such. Now, when we say that, we need to remember that there are close to about 7 vaccines plus additionally our own 2 vaccines.
Yes.
Which would mean 9 vaccines are likely to be entering into phase 3 trial now. Now, once we get the results of efficacy, we would know which vaccine to choose and which vaccine to be produced. And based on the toxicity profile, we will also have another parameter added which will make us select the vaccine that needs to be produced. One of the biggest advantages that India has is India is the largest vaccine manufacturing country. So wherever a vaccine is found as efficacious, eventually they will have to come to India to produce this vaccine in large numbers. If that is the case, we should be in a position to get at least our choices very well known by January, February of the next year, and then perhaps we will have to take action to produce in adequate quantities.
But there is also talk, Dr. Gangakedkar, about the Sero survey that have been showing results of pretty high levels of prevalence already. in society. And one wonders, by the time the vaccine comes, whether we'll actually have herd immunity already by then. That's one of the questions at the back of people's minds. What do you think? I mean, are these sero surveys giving the right kind of data, or should we be skeptical about them?
There is no reason for us to be skeptical. One has to assume that whatever has been done with a scientific rigor, one has to accept the finding and interpret the same.
Yes.
It is true that we are getting sufficiently high prevalence rate for exposure. Now, what does that mean? Exposure would essentially mean these people have got infection in the prior period of this particular outbreak. Now, if you look at daily data tends to say that it has almost added close to about 6.5% more individuals within a short span of 1 month. You could look at this particular data differently. You could still say that the outbreak is occurring fairly rapidly even at this point in time, because its 1 month's increase is close to about 7%. But the second issue that you raised, whether everybody would require vaccine, perhaps we'll need to wait, because some of the studies that have been done so far have indicated that these antibodies which are generated after infection that occurs, they tend to wane off within 4 months after the infection.
Okay.
Now, which would mean immune protection could be lost by 4 months. It also means that there is another paper which describes you that it is not only the antibody levels that matter, but also T cell immunization. Antibodies are produced by B lymphocytes,
yes,
whereas T lymphocytes are custodians, they are like historians of
Okay.
whatever has happened, how did the immune system fight with any infection. If their memory cells know what antibodies have to be produced to conquer this particular infection, you would find that next time when the infection occurs, the immune system will launch an attack against this particular virus.
Okay.
Now, if they, according to the newer papers, they tend to suggest that T memory cells are also sensitized in the first infection. So there is no reason to worry, even if the antibody levels fall off. If the second exposure occurs, the body will be able to mount an attack against it. Now,
Right.
given that situation, if you look at it, they represent two different paradigms. If antibody levels wane off, if we trust in that, then it would essentially mean that the herd immunity will protect us only for a short period of time, so vaccine would still be necessary. If you believe that T cell responses are going to become important, then perhaps you would have to have essentially an antibody test done before you vaccinate an individual, because you would like to only provide it to people who are uninfected so far.
Yes.
But it's too early to take the call. I think both the findings are a reality, and we need to wait for additional evidence to come and decide as to what strategy will we have to adopt. There is no reason for us to believe that we are not doing well.
Okay.
Just because of the prevalence rates that we are finding,
Okay.
or the incidence, that is increase in new cases that occur. I think this is part of a reality. We have to adjust to it. We have done that adjustment in such a short period of time. We should be able to be hopeful that we will be able to have right kind of strategies to protect our population.
Yes, indeed. And Dr. Ganga Ketkar, when that also brings to mind certain criteria for the vaccine, because they have to give the T cell response in the vaccine as well, isn't it? So, that has to be noticed. You have about what? You mentioned about 9 vaccines that are going into phase 3 trials across the world right now. What's the kind of evidence that we are suggesting that the vaccine is effective or most effective? Which of these is the most effective in generating this kind of response for the long term?
That's true. No, we will have to look at the protective efficacy, as I said, which essentially means if I give vaccine X to an individual, how many 100 individuals,
Yeah.
how many individuals may not acquire this infection even if they are exposed. If that proportion is far higher, it's always good to have that kind of a vaccine. But at the same time, we will also need to look at the two issues that emerge. How long does the vaccine protect you? If you give it, let's say, do you require to give it every year, or do you need to provide this particular vaccine only once in 3 years, once in 2 years? That issue will also become important. And the third issue that will become important is the side effects that are associated with this particular vaccine. The lesser the side effects, the kind of side effects that are not considered as severe. Now, any vaccine that you give may produce some pain, some red colored kind of a mark, but that we don't consider as a serious side effect. But if the side effects are serious, we may need to think as to whether we should be choosing such a vaccine. So you will perhaps rest your judgment on three issues: what proportion of people would be protected, how long there will be impact with respect to protection, how many years of protection can a vaccine dose provide to them, and third, what kind of serious toxicity is associated with the vaccine.
And given these concerns, Dr. Ganga Ketkar, everything is being fast-tracked, and we know that the Russians have already gone ahead and approved a vaccine. People are not very sure about the side effects of that vaccine. But given the fact that winter is approaching, and we know that the virus actually spread very fast in the winter, at least that was the impression during the last winter. Is there a race that we have to reach to get this vaccine out fast before the winter comes in the northern hemisphere?
See, there is one thing which we must remember. We are learning every day, and every new facet that we discover can make you feel optimistic or make you feel pessimistic about it. You look at why fast tracking is required. This is a virus which is highly transmissible.
Yes.
And at the same time, you look at even daily data. Within a month's time, close to about 7% people were additionally found as infected within just 1 month's time, which would also mean that I need to act fast. Otherwise, a large proportion of people would be infected, and a significant proportion of them would die due to this particular infection. Finally, we are extremely worried about mortality, and at the same time, we must also remember that there is a new concept that is emerging called as post-COVID state, which would mean that the people who are infected by this particular virus are also likely to have some amount of affection of lungs, some amount of affection of other organs. Now, which would mean that every infection will count, every death will count. So earlier the vaccine comes, if it is able to protect us, perhaps we will save our population from huge morbidity as well as mortality that is one likely to witness in the given time. And there are different means in fast tracking by way of which you may have to take a risk, a calculated risk, whether you are more likely to see severe side effects. Now, I will tell you in one simple word.
Yes, doctor.
Generally, the serious side effects are noticed within first 2 months of time. The ones that can potentially affect the life of an individual. So it would essentially mean the major side effects should be seen. You may have to follow up this population over a period of time.
Yes, doctor. Right, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Dr. Ganga Ketkar, for joining us here on Midday Prime and enlightening us about the situation with regard to the vaccines. Moving on to our next story then, the Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden told Americans that he would unite the country as he accepted the Democratic nomination to challenge President Donald Trump in the November 3rd U.S. election. Biden's speech on the fourth and final night of the Democratic National Convention was the culmination of a half-century in the public eye for the former U.S. Senator and Vice President. And he also, who fared poorly in the two previous runs for the White House in 1988 and 2008. Biden heads into the general election campaign with a clear and steady lead in opinion polls over Trump, who will accept the Republican nomination for a second White House term at his own convention next week.
United, we can and will overcome this season of darkness in America. will choose hope over fear, facts over fiction, fairness over privilege. I'm a proud Democrat, and I'll be proud to carry the banner of our party into the general election. So it's with great honor and humility I accept this nomination for President of the United States of America.
And Ramesh Ramachandran now joins us with further inputs on this particular story. Well, Ramesh, all eyes will be on Joe Biden accepting the presidential nomination, but it's really his running mate that interests India, because she is half Tamil, of Tamil origin, and she even spoke Tamil at least a few words in Tamil during her acceptance speech. So that probably went down very well with the Indian American electorate.
Absolutely, Mark. It's been almost 6 hours since Biden's acceptance speech on the last and concluding day of the Democratic National Convention in his hometown of Delaware, by the way. And it's already lifted the spirits of his base, his constituents, the Democratic Party in particular. And in his speech, he traversed the length and breadth of American domestic politics. He touched upon 4 or 5 key issues. If I can recount them for the benefit of our viewers. First and foremost, we spoke about the impact, the devastating impact of COVID-19 on America and Americans in particular. Then he went on to speak about his plan for an economic revival in the US. Okay. Third item was the ever-present and perennial issue of racial tensions in the US among African Americans and the so-called white supremacists, or the bigots, so to speak, who have been ramping up pressure on the Trump administration to do and act in a manner that is not gone down well with a large cross-section of the American population. And last but not the least, he spoke about the impact of climate change, in particular saying that the Trump presidency has been very low on science and facts. It's time that America did something on its own to boost the climate change efforts happening around the world as we speak. So all in all, it was an eventful speech, a much anticipated speech that brought curtains down on the Democratic convention. But next week, we are looking forward to Trump's acceptance speech, which he'll deliver from the White House. And Biden in particular spoke about his running mate and nominee for VP, Kamala Harris. And he spoke about the African American community, the Asian Americans, and in particular the Indian American peoples as well. And remember, Kamala Harris is the first South Asian woman of color to be nominated for this post. So it's an eventful Democratic convention, to say the least. And Biden in particular spoke about, Mark, how Charlottesville violence a couple of years ago actually made him run for president. So he spoke about racial tensions and how both himself and Harris can unite America in the days ahead.
Ramesh Ramachandran, thank you very much for those inputs. Moving on then to our next story. After the Supreme Court's nod, the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI, on Friday started its probe into the Sushant Singh Rajput death case in the city as it collected relevant documents and reports from the Mumbai police. And a special investigation team of the CBI, consisting of officers, other personnel and forensic experts, landed in Mumbai on Thursday evening to take over the probe. So Yogesh Sheetal is with us for further inputs. So Yogesh, well, the CBI has landed in Mumbai and the documents will be given to them. So what's the next, what do you expect next?
See, Mark, last time CBI arrived in Mumbai and then the formal investigation in this case has been started by the agency. What we have been given to understand at this point in time, that all the crucial evidences, including electronic evidences like laptop, cell phone, and also other evidences have been given to the agency from the Mumbai police. Early in the day, the CBI officials have visited Bandra police station and also had interaction with different officials from Mumbai police, and after that the documents and all the crucial evidences have been given to the agency. One also important thing at this point in time, let me tell you that most probably the recreation of the entire crime scene would be done today only, because the CBI is in fact completed first part of the investigation. The entire procedural things have been done. So now the formal investigation has been started, and also CBI has questioned one of the closed eyes of Sushant Singh Rajput. However, what's coming out from the investigation remains to be seen, because CBI officials have not spoken to media as of now. Also, there are some important things. Let me tell you that Riya Chakravarti, who is the main accused in this case in the FIR that was filed by the agency, is likely to be questioned in next 2 or 3 days. And earlier we know that not only Mumbai Police but also Enforcement Directorate had questioned Riya Chakravarti. So the statements of Riya Chakravarti with the ED and also with the Mumbai Police as of now, that statement has been given to CBI. So when Riya Chakravarti will be questioned, definitely she will be confronted with the statements that she made earlier. So there are different things, and also when the recreation would be done, definitely that will give a lead to the agency, whether it is suicide or whether it is murder or whether it is something else. So basically that will give a crucial lead to the agency. So that is the most important point at this point in time as far as investigation is concerned. Recreation of the crime scene will be very important. What we had also seen in the Sinapura murder case, which was transferred to the agency, CBI just went on the same line, recreation of entire thing, and also later on gathered new evidences. However, the evidences and the statements are already with the CBI, but CBI has already said, if sources are to be believed, that CBI will record fresh statement of all the concerned people, all the suspect, and all the people whether they have been associated with Sushant Singh Rajput. So many things remain to be seen later in the day. Yeah,
indeed. Also, Yogesh, since this is a trial that the media has followed very closely. In fact, many people were calling it a media trial to start with, but now that the CBI is involved, perhaps the media will take a little, of a back seat, because the CBI doesn't operate, in front of the media all the time.
See, Mark, many things are suspicious at this, in this case. If I'll just figure out something like Mumbai Police held a press conference where majority of reporters, even Doordarshan and also other main important channels, they have not been invited in the press conference. So there are different things happen in this case, whether Mumbai Police, whether they are trying to conceal something, whether they are not confident to take uncomfortable questions. Apart from that, we have also learned that some PR agencies are working in this case. PR agencies on which behalf, that is not clear, but yes, PR agencies are also working. So there are some technical things. As far as media trial is concerned, Riya Chakravarti had already moved Supreme Court demanding there should be no media trial, and media had already held out guilty without any formal trial. So the plea was already with the Supreme Court, but as of now Supreme Court has not made anything, whether Supreme Court has not directed whether it will be in camera trial in case if the trial starts. So number of things are would be where people are looking closely at the developments. But at this point in time, media trial, it's just an allegation. There are many allegations in different cases but there's no legal thing, there's no legal order, there's no court order as far as media trial, alleged media trial is concerned.
Okay, thanks very much, Yogesh Seetal, for being with us. Now moving on to our next story then, the Facebook row intensified into a full-blown war with the BJP MP Nishikant Dubey demanding the removal of Shashi Tharoor as the head of the parliamentary panel, claiming that he was using the platform for a political agenda. The BJP leader Nishikant Dubey has alleged that Shashi Tharoor misused his position as the chief of the parliamentary panel on information technology to fulfill his party's agenda by summoning Facebook India executives over news reports that the company went soft on right-wing elements and BJP leaders who had delivered hate speeches, apparently, allegedly, during the 2019 general elections. The Parliamentary Standing Committee on Information Technology has meanwhile summoned Facebook on September 2 to discuss the issue of alleged misuse of social media platforms. Dubey has been leading his party's attack on Tharoor after the Congress leader spoke of summoning Facebook India executives. The BJP MP wrote a letter to the Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla requesting him to remove Tharoor from the post and also to appoint any other member as the chairman of the committee. The party colleague Harsh Vardhan, who is also a member of the panel, accused the Congress leader of undermining the panel's work. Both Dubey and Tharoor have sniped on social media and then filed notices of breach of privilege against each other with the Speaker's office on Wednesday. But ever since Tharoor has become the panel head, he is running the affairs of the committee in a thoroughly unprofessional manner and to serve his political agenda of spreading rumors and defaming my party. This is what Dubey has claimed in a letter.
जो पार्लियामेंट का रूल है 283 और उसके साथ 258(3), उसके अंतर्गत जो चेयरमैन के तौर पर शशि थरूर साहब का बिहेवियर है या जिस तरह से वो कंडक्ट कर रहे हैं, उनको जो है ये आईटी कमेटी के चेयरमैन से मैंने कहा है, स्पीकर साहब को रिक्वेस्ट किया है कि आप उनको परसुएट करिए कि वो कमेटी की मीटिंग नहीं लें और उनको चेयरमैन से हटाइए। हम किसी सोशल मीडिया के पक्ष में नहीं खड़े। लोकसभा के अंदर मैंने कहा कि जैसे प्रिंट मीडिया रेगुलेट होती है, जैसे इलेक्ट्रॉनिक मीडिया रेगुलेट होती है, उसी तरह से सोशल मीडिया के प्लेटफॉर्म को भी रेगुलेट करिए।
Well, there's no significant change now in the flood situation in Bihar. Over 81 lakh of the population over there, that is 1,317 panchayats in about 130 blocks of 16 districts, they are still facing the brunt of these floods. The rivers are flowing above the danger mark at Patna's Gandhi Ghat, but the water levels have stabilized. At present, the water level of the Ganga in Kahalgaon is about 31 centimeters above the danger mark, and its level is rising apparently. And the Principal Secretary of the Water Resources Department, Sanjeev Hans, has said that the water level of most of the rivers of the state, the water level has started receding, due to which some improvement in the flood situation is expected in the coming days. In Munger as well, the water level of the Ganga has been continuously increasing for the last 5 days. People of low-lying areas of the district and the Dhiara region, they are being alerted and they are being asked to go to higher places. So the Meteorological Department has predicted about 10 to 25 millimeters of rainfall in the catchment areas of the rivers located in Nepal. The river waters, they have entered the Shaktipith Chandika place, which is located around that area. Relief and rescue operations are being carried out on a large scale. 3,15,000 people are being provided cooked food through 443 community kitchens. 5,000 people are staying at 6 relief camps in Samastipur and Khagadia. Till now, 9,26,000 families have been given relief, which is about 6,000 rupees per family. The deep low-level pressure, which is the low pressure area, in fact, of the Bay of Bengal, has reached near Chhattisgarh on Thursday. Monsoon Dronika is passing through Jabalpur. Due to these two systems, heavy rainfall is likely at various places across Madhya Pradesh, including the capital Bhopal. According to the Met Department, there may be an excessive rainfall in parts of Bhopal, Hoshangabad, Jabalpur, Ujjain, Sagar and Indore divisions during the next 48 hours. Meanwhile, Bhopal witnessed heavy rains of around 4.8 centimeters for 6 hours yesterday evening, leading to waterlogging at several places, several low-lying areas. According to the Met Center, Bhopal, due to the monsoon system being active there are chances of rains in the entire state, including the capital, and it added that the monsoon has intensified this month after inadequate monsoons earlier. Further, the IMD has predicted heavy rains in Bhopal, Jabalpur, Sagar, Rewa, Hoshangabad, Indore divisions today and tomorrow. Tomorrow, in fact, heavy rainfall is likely to be witnessed along the districts of Indore, Ujjain division and also districts bordering Rajasthan, as well as Shivpuri, Guna and Rajgarh. So in Assam, in fact, lives have started returning back to normal as the flood situation has improved considerably in the last few days. The number of districts which have been affected by the floods now stands at 3 out of 33 districts, and with no deaths reported in the last 24 hours, the death toll stands at 113. In spite of the floods receding in Assam over the last 7 days, the Assam government is keeping nothing, giving nothing to chance, and the Met Department has, in fact, said that moderate rains, thunder showers are likely in many places in Assam over the next 2 to 3 days. A major fire accident occurred at Srisailam, and it left a canal hydroelectric power station in Nagar Kurnool district of Telangana. Rescue operations are underway to save 9 employees who are feared trapped inside this power plant. The power was shut down after the incident. Altogether, 17 employees were at work inside the power plant when the fire broke out at around 10:30 p.m. last night. All 6 units, each having a capacity of 150 megawatts power generation, were under operation at the time of the accident. 8 employees managed to escape through a tunnel with burn injuries. Telangana Power Minister Jagdish Reddy, local MLA and other officials reached the power plant to monitor the rescue operations. Officials are suspecting that a short circuit might have been the reason behind this fire accident. The Union Information Broadcasting Minister Prakash Javadekar has congratulated the winners of the Patriotic Film Festival contest organized by the National Film Development Corporation of India. The government had organized this virtual short film contest on the occasion of the 74th Independence Day based on the theme Patriotism, Marching Towards Atmanirbharta. The minister took it to Twitter to congratulate all the participants for making it a success, while the film Am I bagged the first prize. Ab India Banega Bharat and 10 rupees won the second and third prizes respectively. And now let's take a look at what's making news across the globe. So let's give you an update then on the global COVID figures from across the world. Over 2.28 crore coronavirus cases have been reported globally, with more than 7.96 lakh deaths, and as many as 1.55 crore people have recovered from the virus. That's the good news so far. COVID-19 cases have been shooting up in the United States. It is the worst affected by the pandemic for several weeks now, several months in fact, and the United States has over 57.45 lakh cases of the virus, with a death toll of more than 1.77 lakhs. The US is followed by Brazil with 1.12 lakh deaths and more than 35.05 lakh cases. And talking in terms of COVID-19 deaths worldwide, the US and Brazil are followed by Mexico with a death toll nearing 58,000. The United Kingdom has removed Portugal from its COVID-19 quarantine list, while Croatia has been added to the travel restrictions. Announcing the changes, the British Transport Minister said that people will need to self-isolate for 14 days on returning from Croatia, Austria and Trinidad and Tobago. However, Croatia has seen a spike in the number of coronavirus cases in recent days, with over 7,300 total cases. Meanwhile, Germany also issued a warning against the travel to parts of Croatia. The U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo on Thursday notified the United Nations that the U.S. is initiating the process of reinstating all UN sanctions on Iran that were previously lifted under the Obama-era nuclear deal. The snapback sanctions will extend on arms embargo on Iran that was set to expire in October and further restrict the country from conducting ballistic missile testing. After submitting the letter to the United Nations, Pompeo also accused the European allies of siding with Iran after they said that the US could not reimpose UN sanctions on it. The UK, France and Germany said that the US did not have the legal right to trigger snapback sanctions because it pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal in 2018. President Donald Trump in 2018 withdrew the United States from the nuclear deal with Iran, but has argued that the US retains the ability to reinstate sanctions. Now, other countries of the Security Council will have 30 days to adopt a resolution to avert the snapback. Meanwhile, in a letter to the Security Council submitted before the United States action, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said that Washington had no right to trigger the snapback mechanism as it was no longer a party to the pact. You're watching Midday Prime. You're watching Midday Prime, and now news from the world of sports. And Narayan joins us with all that.
Thanks, Mark. Former cricketer Suresh Raina today thanked Prime Minister Narendra Modi for his letter of appreciation. Suresh Raina tweeted, "When we play, we give our blood and sweat for the nation. No better appreciation than being loved by the people of this country and even more by country's PM. Thank you, Narendra Modi ji, for your words of appreciation and best wishes. I accept them with gratitude. Jai Hind." Prime Minister Modi distinctly remembers Suresh Raina's elegant cover drives during the epic 2011 World Cup quarter-final against Australia in Ahmedabad. In the letter of appreciation wrote to Suresh Raina, PM had said that Raina's anchoring innings had a big role to play team's victory. A bona fide IPL legend, Raina was praised by the Prime Minister for his prowess in the T20 format. The PM also described Raina as the perfect team man who enjoyed others' success. In the letter, PM said Suresh Raina will always be synonymous with the team spirit. You played not for personal glory, but for glory of your team and glory of India. Shifting focus to hockey in a massive blow to India's preparation for the Tokyo Olympic, Hockey India's high-performance director David John has resigned from his post just days after his contract was renewed by the Sports Ministry until September 2021. John's stint as high-performance director was second term with Hockey India. John, who was employed at the monthly salary of $12,000, cited personal and health issues as a reason for his return to Australia. John has been associated with Hockey India for a major part of the last decade, having first come as the men's team's physio along with former coach Michael Knopps. During that stint, he was credited with improving players' fitness levels, first bringing them on par with the rest of the world and then making them better. Inter Milan will be looking to win their first piece of European silverware for 10 years when they take on Spanish football club Sevilla in the Europa League final tonight. Antonio Conte's side defeated Shakhtar Donetsk in the semi-finals to advance, while Sevilla recorded 2-1 win over Manchester United to book their berth in final once again. The most successful side in the history of this competition, Sevilla have won the Europa League on 5 occasions, most recently lifting the European trophy in 2016, which proved to be their third in succession. Tonight's clash will be the first ever European meeting between the two sides, but both have plenty of experience in matches against Italian and Spanish opponents in UEFA competitions. Sevilla have won 6, drawn 2, lost 5 of their previous 13 games against the Serie A clubs in European football, while Inter have won 14, drawn 11 and lost 18 against Spanish teams. Former champions Novak Djokovic, Rafael Nadal and Serena Williams are scheduled to play this week at the Western and Southern Open in New York City, which will serve as a tune-up for the US Open. The August 20 to 28 event, which was relocated from Cincinnati this year because of COVID-19, will also see defending champions Daniel Medvedev and Madison Keys among the entries. The event will be the first on the men's calendar since play was suspended in March because of the virus. Among the men's entries, we'll see 40 of the top 43 ranked players are world number 3 Dominic Thiem, 2017 champion Grigor Dimitrov and Marin Cilic. And that's all from the sporting arena. For more updates, back to you, Mark.
Thanks very much, Narayan. And now let's move on to our next segment, which is Live Prime. We are going to bring you some stories from the world of art, culture and cinema. Yes, let's get you these stories now that are changing lives. Okay, moving on then. Harry Potter fans can now once again visit Wizarding World after 5 months long COVID-19 induced closure. With all precautionary measures in place to curb the spread of the virus, Warner Brothers studio tour in London has reopened to embrace fans. Cloaks and wands are all set to mesmerize the studio visitors, showcasing behind the scenes of the movie. The reopening came just 2 days after it was announced that the making of Harry Potter studio tour was to be developed in Japan's Tokyo. Well, that's all we have from Midday Prime today, and we'll keep you updated on India's fight against COVID-19 through the day, and the vaccine, of course. And at present, the vaccine trials against COVID-19 are being fast-tracked globally Keep watching DD News and DD India. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.